Hello, welcome to the March 1st edition of Success by Association Live. Today's issue is sponsored by Cabarrus County Convention and Visitors Bureau. We thank them for their support of AENC. Today's article is written by Joe Stewart, past AENC Board President and Vice President for Governmental Affairs with Independent Insurance Agents of North Carolina. The article is titled, "The Autumn of My Years," and is reprinted with permission. Back in the fall, I had the occasion to travel for work from Raleigh to Boone 3 times over a 2-week period, and as a result, had a very unique experience with the progression of autumnal color change of the trees. Because of the elevation difference between the two cities, the foliage on the Boone side of the trip changed color ahead of that in Raleigh. This dynamic provided an unexpected glimpse into a seasonal future as well as past colors I saw in Boone, foretold what I would soon see in Raleigh, and foliage in Raleigh was a reminder of what I'd seen in Boone just before. It dawned on me that I too am at that stage of life where there is both a meaningful past while still an interesting way forward. I am certainly much closer to retirement now than I am to the start of my career, and much closer to the inevitable conclusion of my time on Earth than I am to the day I started. But rest assured, rather than feeling sad or resigned at this revelation, this experience struck a positive chord. I now feel inspired to offload the little clumps of wisdom I've obtained in my professional journey to those who are a little earlier on in theirs. So here's to my less tenured colleagues. I give you the following clumps of wisdom from my nearly 40-year career in government, politics, advocacy, and association management. The first clump of wisdom is something I learned from my father, who passed away in 2017. My father was, among many interests, an avid lifelong bowler, and he once told me that what it takes to reach the goal in bowling, to get all strikes, serves as an important life lesson. In bowling, since you can't hit all 10 pins with the ball, the objective really is to hit the right 2 in just the right way so they will take out all the other 8. Similarly, when seeking to solve problems, the temptation is to always try and hit every one of them with a solution ball. In reality, you'll be better off giving some thought to which of the problems, when hit with the solution ball, are likely to take out the other problems. This does require the luxury of having time to think about the problems. Of course, sometimes you simply have to act quickly and just hurl the ball down the alley toward the pins. Sometimes, but not always. So, whenever possible, take the time to think through your problem-solving approach to determine if there is indeed a "these 2 will take out the other 8" option. This certainly does apply to advocacy strategies for associations. Often, the problems your members are facing, the things they tell you are keeping them up at night, that make them feel like their very professional or public policy purpose is in jeopardy, fall into this category. While your members may express a desire for the association to attack all such problems at once, in fact, is a sequencing in the solution-seeking plan of attack has a far greater chance of succeeding. Figuring that out does take time to listen aggressively as your members express their concerns and to ask clarifying questions about the problems to discern if there is an opportunity to fix one thing that can fix the other. This approach is a fine form of creative problem solving, which by its nature also requires creative question asking about the problem itself. Make sure your questions to your members probe for their thoughts on every way they can imagine to fix the problem and not just on how the problem is impacting them, although that is important information to gather too. This is another nugget from my father. If you don't have at least 3 possible solutions in mind for every problem you bring forward, you haven't really thought about it enough. The second wisdom clump is about the expression, "think outside the box." We use this phrase to remind us that innovation and creativity are important within every organization, especially in the process of setting strategic goals and objectives, which are indeed very important for every association to establish, as well as to refine from time to time. The thing to remember, though, is that in this expression, it's the thinking part that's really most important, even more so than the proximity of the box. It is simply true that the need for change is inevitable within every association as the needs of the membership evolve and the political, societal, economic environment those members operate in changes. But doing something differently without regard to really considering whether the changes actually improve efficiency and effectiveness produce more net revenue, or generate greater returns on investment is as bad as relying on, well, that's just the way we've always done it, as the reason for doing nothing. Overall, it's a perfectly acceptable outcome to take a thorough look at how your association is working to fulfill its mission and conclude that you are already doing it about the best way possible. But so is the conclusion that you could tweak a few things or even boldly identify changes to make in a particular sequence and within a specific timeline. I offer 2 final recommendations about thinking and boxes. First, through any group process like strategic planning, it's helpful to have one of the people involved designated as the reasonable skeptic, a participant whose job is to interrupt anytime it appears decisions are being made using groupthink instead of an objective assessment of the facts. Second, if at all possible, bring in a trusted outsider to facilitate the process so the discussions are being directed by someone who has no stake in the outcome, other than for it to be a conscious formed and outcome measurable plan of attack. The third clump of wisdom is to be mindful that your communications are clear and effective and reach the intended audience in an impactful way. Always remember that the number of eyes and ears in your audience is not meaningful if your message failed to inspire them to take the action you need them to take. Ever find yourself in an office building where the directional signage is particularly unhelpful? Oftentimes, the people charged with providing directions forget they already know the route to take and fail to install instructions that account for the fact that the signage user is less well informed or completely uninformed about which way to go. Seek ways to deliver actionable information, like the college that built a new classroom building without any sidewalks. After a few months, the sidewalk that was built on the worn path so as to perfectly meet the actual needs of the people using it. It is important to remember that how you want to provide information to your members may not be the way that they want to receive it. Suggested is checking in from time to time with a sample person, someone you know will be honest in their assessment from your intended audience, and having a good conversation. Surveys are great, but individual conversations are a goldmine about whether they are hearing your message. Ask directly, does the instruction we're providing make sense to you? Should we be providing it in some other form or format? When it comes to communication in the form of presentations, I have had the opportunity to do a lot of public speaking over the years. At NC Free in particular, I did no fewer than 150 separate presentations to different groups, from primary election day to general election day in November, sometimes 3 or 4 presentations in a single day, updating the PowerPoint regularly to include all information on the most recent public opinion research and candidate activities. Suffice it to say that at that level of frequency, and with a topic both complicated and necessitating surgical precision to ensure the appropriate, absolutely nonpartisan disposition, I learned a few things about what audiences expect in terms of effective communication within a presentation. Here are a few tips to share from that experience. Clarity and conciseness are a must. To practice that, look at the appliances and gadgets in your kitchen while preparing a meal, and try explaining what each is, how it works, what purpose it serves. This will refine your ability to develop a short but thorough explanation of a complicated topic without confusing your audience. Use acronyms, but first spell out what the full name or title is before using the acronym. Don't rely on technical jargon or industry insider language, and if you do, make sure you explain it the first time you use it. Refer to people mentioned in your remarks by their full name, first and last, and title if applicable, since using a pronoun can confuse your audience as to whom specifically you are referring. That concludes my list of professional clumps of wisdom, but I'd like to end with a few personal clumps of wisdom that have also directed me over the years. First, if you are looking to have a happy life, I recommend to you the sage words of my life coach, that little monkey George: be a good monkey and always very curious. Be nice to others. Try to make the community you live in a better place than you found it, and never lose interest in learning more about the world and the people in it. I look forward to hearing your clumps of wisdom. That concludes this article. We hope you have a great rest of your day.